America, and welcome to Blaze Media's preview of the first Republican debate. I'm Stu Bergier, host of Stu Does America, and joining me tonight are Steve Deace, host of The Steve Deace Show, Sarah Gonzalez, host of The News and Why It Matters, and Delano Squires, BlazeTV contributor to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. We're going to be talking to everybody here in just a little bit. And tonight is really likely to be a make or break moment for several campaigns, and we're here to cover it all for you. You'll want to join us later this evening for our post-debate analysis. But the real fun is going to take place during the debate over at BlazeTV. Glenn, myself, all of your favorite BlazeTV hosts will be chatting live throughout the debate, providing our real-time reactions to the biggest moments of the night. This chat is exclusive to BlazeTV subscribers. So if you're watching this on YouTube, head over to BlazeDebate.com to join us. For tonight only, we're offering 25% off your first year of BlazeTV when you use the code DEBATE at checkout. We're looking forward to chatting with you throughout the debate. It's going to be a lot of fun, so head over now and join us. Now, let's bring over the co-founder of Blaze Media. He's also the host of the Glenn Beck program, so conveniently named Glenn Beck. Glenn, big night tonight.
It is a big night, and it is actually a very historic night. We should just take a moment and address how unusual tonight is for several reasons. And I don't think I have them all, but the guy who is in the lead, things that I've never seen before, the guy who is in the commanding lead is not going to be on stage tonight. This is a Republican debate. There are two black candidates and two Indian or Indian heritage candidates. The diversity of the Republicans compared to the diversity of the Democratic Party is stark. And should speak volumes for anybody who would be paying attention. In the old days, it would have been a very big deal. But now that it is the Republicans doing it, they just must hate people of color as much as white people do, I guess. The two people to watch are Vivek Ramaswamy and DeSantis. I think DeSantis has to make some real moves tonight. He has to have a good night. Even though this is the first debate, I think people expected more from the DeSantis campaign. And Ramaswamy is interested because he is bringing youth with him. And that is something that the Republicans have not been good doing. But he also brings real seasoning from the market and a less political kind of feel. And that's the other thing that is so unique about tonight. Fox News fired Tucker Carlson. They're not allowed to talk about Tucker Carlson. They weren't allowed when Blaze TV did the debate the last time, and it wasn't a debate, it was the summit, and we broke all of the formatic rules. And we came out of that, I think, with a new style of getting to know all of the candidates. One-on-one interview, and we just let you watch how these people act. It was refreshing. It was incredibly different. And tonight we go back to the old style, which I'm interested to see if it feels dated or outdated. I'm interested to see if the moderators will actually get to the real issues. But this is the first time that I've ever seen in my lifetime a Republican debate with this kind of diversity. Not sure if the Republicans or the rest of the country will even gather around to watch it, where the lead candidate is a former president. I've never seen that in my lifetime before. And the network that was the network of record just 4 years ago is now on the skids. And the guy they fired is competing directly against them on the social media platform that conservatives 4 years ago said were blocking them. This is the strangest night of television I've ever seen. But it should tell us an awful lot. Will they get serious tonight and start talking about the real issues and not the political things? While I want to know what's going to be done about the corruption in Washington, which includes the Hunter Biden scandals. That seems more political to me. Will they take the time to talk about the things that the mainstream media is not talking about, but that the base and the core is talking about? CBDCs. I know everybody poo-poos that in the mainstream media, but that's highly concerning. What is the value of the dollar? And if it continues to plummet as it has, at what point do you believe we need to reset the dollar? Will they take the time to not only ask those questions, but will the candidates then use this opportunity to educate the American people of what we're really facing? Will they press everyone on the war and get a yes or no? Yes, I'm in. No, I'm not. And why? So again, we can educate. We have major crime like I've never seen on the streets of our cities in the United States. Almost every stat that you could quote about the United States in a bad way today is unprecedented, or the worst it's been in 50 years. I'm 59. So those stats mean I was 9 years old when it was this bad. And I've never seen anything like it. We're entering a time with COVID. Will they get a never again moment from the Republican candidates? Will they say, I know Ron DeSantis would, will they stand up and say, no, no more? Will Tucker ask President Trump on a competing show, will he ask, why didn't you fire? Why didn't you fire Fauci? Why did you go along for so long? Would you do the same thing again? These are questions that I think desperately need to be asked and answered. The corruption on the DOJ. How are you going to stop the Department of Education? Will you shut it down? How many departments are you willing to shut down? And how do you do that? And the elephant that will not be in the room is Donald Trump presents himself to a jailer tomorrow to be photographed and fingerprinted in Georgia. What happens if they actually put him in jail? Tonight, I believe it's either going to tell us that the Republicans and the mainstream media, Fox, no longer has a clue at what really is happening in America, or we will see a window of hope because somebody gets it and somebody has the right answers of what they plan on doing, and it'll be up to the American media, the American people, not the American media, to decide. I do want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for supporting BlazeTV. I think we are just getting to a point to where we're making good on some of the promises that I made 10 years ago when I started Blaze. Blaze Media has grown a great deal, and we are a network that tries to respect conservatives and their values, and we are also trying to give you voices that are voices of concern and support for whatever it is the American people choose. We will not blindly go anywhere, but you are the one that will decide. We are here just to point out, did you notice this? Did you notice that? And we have an incredible panel to do that all throughout the night. If you would you join us on our mission by becoming a Blaze TV subscriber? Blaze TV subscribers are the foundation of what we do. Without you, we may not exist. I know you helped us through all the tough times that we have been through, and the tough times, I believe, are just beginning. So ditch the legacy media and help us build something better, if you will, and do it in a way where we can stay in touch, especially tonight. Go to blazedebate.com to get started, 25% off your subscription. And don't forget that we're going to be chatting all the way through, and I'm going to be watching not only what the RNC is doing on Fox, but also what Tucker is doing with Donald Trump. And we will be watching your voice in the Blaze chat. One other thing that I think is is worth mentioning, and that is the fact that all of this is competing against each other. If you look at what's happening, I've never seen a news organization clamp down on what we could show you. Tomorrow on the radio, I'm going to have to use puppets. I feel like I should do some sketching, some courtroom sketches, because we can't use in what's called fair use any of the audio or video from Fox, and they are monitoring. Everybody can use 3 minutes, and that's it. One answer could be 3 minutes. I've never seen that. And this is because everyone is competing against each other. We urge you to watch Tucker. We urge you to watch us. We urge you to watch Fox News. We urge you to do your own homework. We're not in competition. Our nation is under attack, and the only way it will be solved is if we can find something to unite around. And perhaps tonight we'll see some leaders who can help us do that. Stu?
Glenn, let me go back to where you started this. You kind of talked about how we have insane things going on that we've never seen before. And the elephant in the room is Donald Trump not being at this debate. So when you're on the debate stage tonight, there's going to be a lot of people watching, millions and millions of people who really haven't engaged in this process at all yet are going to watch this for the first time tonight. So you mentioned a couple of candidates who need to have big nights, but how do you have a big night when the person who's in the lead is not there? Do you go after him directly? Do you ignore him completely? Do you just go against Joe Biden? Do you go against the other candidates on the stage? How would you play this?
See, here's a really difficult thing. I think people are so tired of the fight against each other, and they don't want to see all of us fight, in my opinion. And so you have to have a knockout punch without division. That's going to be extraordinarily difficult to do. I personally, if I were on stage tonight, I would ignore Donald Trump, because you're not fighting against Donald Trump yet. You're fighting to get enough of the conservative voice to then go and fight against him one-on-one, because he's not going to come to the table or any of these debates until there is a real contender. So if it's the old days, the ones that should be getting all of the punches tonight would be DeSantis and Ramaswamy, the two that are really leading. They should be punched by everybody, and those two should be punching each other. Somebody's got to come and rise to the top. I don't know who it will be. I really don't. Is Larry Elder going to be on? Do we know? We talked to him this morning, and I haven't heard an update.
I don't think there's any update, any positive update on that. I think he's still kind of stuck in purgatory here for now.
He's going to be suing the Republican Party because what they did to him. He qualified, met their standards, but then at the last minute they said that the Rasmussen poll was too close to Donald Trump, and so they discounted it and said you can't use that poll. Well, he had a fourth poll. He didn't include it because he only needed 3, but they wouldn't accept that he would bring it because he didn't bring it in time. It seems really, really shady, and I wish Larry Elder would be there, because I think he has a handle on the cities, what's happening in Los Angeles, why things are happening the way they are, and he'd bring a different perspective.
All right, let me bring in the panel here. We have Steve Deace, Sarah Gonzalez, Delano Squires here. Steve, let me start with you on this. Should we be watching tonight like it's a national debate, or should we be watching this like it's an Iowa debate? Is this really a central thing to get that first debate started?
Well, I just saw just a minute ago, in fact, I retweeted it from Scott Rasmussen, who doesn't run Rasmussen polling anymore. He sold it several years ago, but he still does polling on his own. And Scott's about the best public pollster I've ever known. And he said, at this point, the only polling really in the whole country that matters is Iowa, that Iowa is the national polling, because what happens in Iowa will then shape the race. And I'm from Iowa, and I tell people all the time, well, Iowa doesn't always pick the winner. And I'm like, I agree, it doesn't. And Iowans don't want to. I don't think people understand. Iowans would not want a process where a state of less than 4 million people picks who the winners are before everybody else comes forward. That's just not how Iowans roll. Iowa is a winnowing fork. It narrows the field. And if you look at it historically on the Republican side, for example, anybody that's ever won Iowa has finished no lower, going back to the first one in 1976. Anybody that's ever won Iowa has finished no lower than second for the GOP nomination every single time. No one has ever won the GOP nomination without finishing in the top 3 in Iowa, with one exception. John McCain finished 4th by less than a percentage point, 0.9 behind Fred Thompson. So basically a statistical tie. That's the only person. No Republican, other than Donald Trump, has actually won the presidency without winning Iowa in a contested year. All right, so it does really test your organizational strength. And then when you pair it with New Hampshire, New Hampshire is essentially one major TV market, Boston, and a lot of suburbs and a lot of urban areas. And so New Hampshire, it's also a similarly small population state, but you have to win that on the air. And so Iowa and New Hampshire together are really good tests, because Iowa, you've got to win it on the ground organizationally. New Hampshire, you got to win it on the air. And they're both self-contained ecosystems of small populations that are kind of good tests for what you'd have to do nationally to win the nomination, which is why I believe there's only been 6 times somebody won Iowa and New Hampshire both, and they won the GOP nomination every single time.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it is a powerful start to this. Sarah, you're watching this tonight. Obviously, we don't have the person in first place in all of these polls there. In some ways, though, Trump dominates the room no matter where he goes, right? So if he's at this debate, the debate's probably going to be all about Trump. This may be the only time these other candidates get a chance to do their thing without, the magnet that Donald Trump is when it comes to eyeballs. What should these candidates be doing tonight?
Well, I mean, I want to stress again just my disappointment that Trump isn't there. I would also like to say, as I like to just give full disclosure, I understand the reason why he chose not to do it. I got it, but it still is disappointing to not see him on that stage and be able to, as you're mentioning, if these candidates come out and they make a stance against policy that Trump has, which good luck, but, they take a stance against, Trump himself. Trump doesn't have the ability to interject. He doesn't have the ability to make some, insult or some quip that's going to make the candidate feel stupid and make the candidate feel insecure. And he's not going to have that ability now. So it'll be interesting to see how the candidates handle it. But certainly, I do think that it is, disappointing for everyone to not have Trump be there, especially if you are, I think, a Trump supporter and you want to see him go after these people. And I would just like to bring up as well, it is kind of weird to me that Trump chose to do the CNN town hall with Caitlin Collins, who should be far more adversarial to him than Fox News. I mean, you could argue that both of them are, I think, enemies of Trump at this point. But CNN has been an enemy for far longer to Donald Trump, and he did choose to do that town hall, sit one-on-one with Caitlin Collins. It is just really disappointing to me to not have him on that stage responding to these people who I think, of course, are going to throw some daggers his way. I really cannot stress how disappointed I am to not see him there tonight.
Can I follow up on that really quick and ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Is it possible Trump's attorneys have told him not to do these? If you look at what he has done, particularly since for the last year, I've been warning the D.C. January 6th one will be the weakest case, but it'll be the worst case because they don't have juries there; they have gulags. I mean, Donald Trump in D.C. reminds me of the old Eddie Murphy skit. I got pulled over one day for being black on a sunny day. I mean, he's Donald Trump. I'm going to get pulled. I'm guilty for being Donald Trump in Washington D.C. On any day. And so since that D.C. thing, if you look, I think you're going to find almost everything he's done has been pre-recorded. Tonight's Tucker interview was pre-recorded last week. Everything he's done has been recorded. Is it possible his attorneys are like, you cannot go in to a live setting with the Fulton County DA and Jack Smith in D.C. and they're just and the Obama judge who has given harsher sentences to the Jan 6ers than even the Merrick Garland DOJ has asked for on multiple occasions? Is it possible they're saying you cannot go into a live setting where you cannot control the message, things get wild, there's multiple candidates, there's back and forths, loose lips sink ships, stay away? Do you think that's a possibility?
I do think it's a possibility. I mean, look, if I were Donald Trump's attorneys, I'd want him to shut up.
Yes.
Right? I'd want him to say nothing.
Take his phone away.
Because, guys, it is not in Donald
post.
Trump's. There's going to be 10 or 15 million people still watching tonight.
Oh, yeah.
It is not in Donald Trump's character to walk away from that kind of a limelight, no matter whoever the heck is on the stage. That's his environment. He's at home there. You know.
Let me go to Delano here real quick. Do you think? Because I look at this and I look at it two ways. One, I understand Trump from a game theory standpoint. I'm saying, hey, I'm up by a zillion points. Why do I need to show up to this? But the other part of me says, you know, it's good for the country to hear Donald Trump in this debate. It's good for the party, if you care about that. It's certainly good for conservatism to have these things debated. Yeah. Should he be there, or should he make either a legal decision or a campaign decision on this?
I mean, I think Steve's point was profound, actually. He's the first person I've heard.
All right, I stole it from my wife then. If it's profound, I gotta give her credit. Otherwise, I will be sleeping on the floor of our hotel room tonight. All right, she's the one that brought this to my
wise man right there. But yeah, so for legal reasons, I can certainly see why he wouldn't. But to this point, all of the reasons that I've heard explaining why he's not here have been political reasons. He's up by too many points. There's nothing for him to gain. And it is interesting, because to me, that signifies how quickly you can go from the anti-establishment revolutionary candidate to the status quo candidate. Because I don't see 2016 Trump turning down any opportunity to bring his message in front of the American people. So I am disappointed that he's not here and on that stage. But to Sarah's point, I do understand, and certainly if what Steve is saying has, you know, any validity in terms of Trump's orbit, I definitely would understand, because it's not just, you know, it is, yes, take away his phone. You don't know what kind of questions will be asked, but it's also, you know your guy, and you don't know what his answers will be. So you don't want to get into a situation where he's incriminating himself in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Trump
Just
does
to
a
add
lot,
to that, guys, he doesn't have a single campaign event scheduled. Like nothing. There's no campaign event scheduled on his calendar right now when you go look. Like
so
not any the rest of the year, nowhere in the country. And so I wonder if we were to go back and cross-reference the DC gulag indictment there on January 6th with what his interview and campaign schedule has been. How many rallies or live appearances has he done since that indictment in Washington, D.C.? I'd be curious to see how that would line up.
And if I could piggyback off of that really quickly, I do think that it would be, you know, obviously the Tucker Carlson interview is pre-recorded. It would be, I don't know if he knew that he was going to be, he says he's going to be arrested tomorrow. How powerful would it be for him to stand on that stage and tell the American people, look into the camera and tell them, I am going to be arrested tomorrow and I'm doing it all for you, right? I am going through all of this for you. And if I wasn't running again, they wouldn't be doing this to me, but I'm doing it for you. I think that he could have some powerful moments about what's about to happen to him and get a chance to get ahead of it, look the American people in the eye on the camera and tell them that. And he, you know, I mean, again, I don't know what he knew whenever he pre-recorded this with Tucker, but it just seems like, man, it would be really nice to hear from him live the night before he says he's going to get arrested.
Let's bring in Glenn back. Glenn, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. First of all, I think your wife is brilliant, Steve.
I completely agree, Glenn. Thank you.
I think she has something there. And a woman who can come up with this, how she married you, is beyond me.
Well, now you know why I turned out the way that I did. It's all her fault, yes.
The problem with this is I think this might be true. However, Donald Trump is more of, he goes with his gut. He's never listened to an attorney. He's never listened to advisors. So as the attorneys say to him, we don't want you to go because you might say something, he's not going to listen to that. However, in this case, he may be learning the lesson of Joe Biden as well. Shut up, you. Just let the other guy hang himself. Because if he goes on stage, I think you're right, Sarah, he would have a very, very powerful moment if he said, do you really think they'd be putting me in jail if I weren't running? If I hadn't been president of the United States and stuck up for what you believe in and I believe in? Powerful beyond any price. That is a moment of power. But the moment he has to say, I can't talk about that. My attorneys told me I can't talk about that. He will never say that because that's death to him. If he can't talk about something, anything that he does say could make things much, much worse for him. He's in a no-win situation, except the president, the guy he's really running against, is so bad and hanging himself every day. He might be really, it might be good for the country and good for him and good for the unity to not have a year of name calling and nasty moments with 8 people on a stage.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I'm looking forward tonight is how these candidates are able to take their message to Joe Biden, right? Because a lot of this is, the conversation over the past couple of months has been, how do candidates attack each other? How do they go back and forth and, differentiate themselves from other, members of the party and members of these debates? But part of this, I think, people aren't going to attach to another candidate until they see them do that attack thing against Biden or the media or outside forces better than Trump can do it. And, there's a couple candidates out there that are pretty good at this. There's a couple that are terrible as well, but there's a couple that are really good up there. If they can show that they can take it to the real political enemy here, not necessarily someone in your own party, but Joe Biden, and illustrate for the people how this will go in a general, that could be something that might actually create that viral moment that they're all looking for.
I agree. I thought, I saw last week, I think it was, somebody on the DeSantis campaign or super PAC leaked to the New York Times their debate strategy. And I can't tell if the super PAC was attempting to communicate with the campaign in a way they could legally do it through the media, or if that was a head fake. And I'm hoping it was the latter, because I completely disagree with the advice. I think one of the dumbest things Ron DeSantis could do tonight is to get into a back and forth with Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek as a candidate is a construct. He has no resume record. And so he is free to take any position and say anything and reflect back to you what you want. And I just don't see that's a winning argument. I can say on the ground organizationally in Iowa, Vivek is just not a presence there, despite probably being in Iowa as much, if not more often, than any other candidate has been. And DeSantis is way ahead of him organizationally. I would, if I were DeSantis, I would not get in a back and forth. I would not take the bait from a Vivek. In fact, I'd look at him and I'd basically big brother him. And I'd say, hey, welcome to the fight. Happy you're here. I've read some of your stuff. It's compelling. I look forward to seeing what you have in store in the future. And then turn right to the camera and address the millions of people watching and talk about your resume and what you've done and why you are the strongest leader to take on Joe Biden. Because the reality is, you're going to see tonight, if Trump, well, I think he did win, if he were still president, you're going to see actually what the debate would have been with Trump term limited. We'd still be in the same environment. Yep. DeSantis is the clear front runner, and everybody's attacking him. And he's the one with a strong resume to make a case to the American people to avoid getting dragged down into that, and instead pivot to the camera and make your case to the American people. And so tonight, I think this is the night for him to do that. If I were him, I would try to live in a Donald Trump-less world as much as possible, unless I'm attacking him on issues from the right, where I've been stronger than him, like on COVID and things of that nature, where I can draw a contrast. Other than that, I get a one-on-one shot to make my case to the American people with a bunch of other candidates up here who, frankly, from a resume standpoint, can't hold my jockstrap. So,
Steve, I know your candidate is DeSantis. You've declared for DeSantis on your show. Why do you think, because this has taken me by surprise, why do you think DeSantis is basically meh? I expected him to come in and tear it up, and he's been pretty meh. Why?
I think two things happened. First of all, the messaging of the campaign, Glenn, at the launch was, it was just junior varsity. I don't know how else to describe it. You have a first-round draft pick at quarterback, and you have an offensive line blocking for him of undrafted free agents. It's just the messaging of the campaign. No campaign can rise above its candidate, but it can sink a candidate. And so they made changes here in the last 2 weeks to try to fix that. And essentially, there was a divide between the gubernatorial staff and the electoral staff. And the gubernatorial staff won, and they're running the show now. So we'll see if that improves. I will tell you, he is very well liked in Iowa. He has built a very strong organization in Iowa. But ultimately, he still has yet to show, you are correct, He comes with this massive reputation earned by his resume. And I think resume is ultimately the most important thing. But I didn't say it was the only important thing. We're not robots, we're humans. We vote for people, not for resumes. And so he's got to make a human connection with the audience tonight. I think there's a lot of people like you that are like, all right, man, here we go. Yeah, I got like me on election night last year, sitting next to you with the tub of corn, waiting for the red wave that never happened. There's a lot of people like you that are like, all right, here we go. The Slayer of Florida. He's coming out to the Hulk Hogan Real American music. Let's do this. And then you just kind of get, a boilerplate speech. I think throw all the notes out, let it rip, and do the camera like he did Disney. That's what I would do. And I also think just structurally as a candidate, he is caught in this nether region, Glenn. And Confucius say, man who straddles fence for too long eventually gets his nether regions caught in it. All right, he needs to choose a lane, and there are only two lanes in this race. You either are going to present yourself as better than Trump in what he represents, like that's what Christie is doing, or I am a better Trump than Trump. And I think his campaign, to start off with, could not decide which of these two lanes they were in, and there's no lukewarm hells in politics, and they got caught in the middle. And
what is he going to be tonight?
His lane has to be, I'm a better Trump than Trump.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at all the data, his voters are Trump's voters, and Trump's voters are his voters. Each of them have about 60% of the party that they're the first and second choice of. Those are the majority of his voters. And I'm going to say something that I've been privy to some data. It will shock people. It stunned me when I saw it. The collapse in DeSantis' polling is not with Trump's base. That is not true. DeSantis' polling collapsed because he lost the soft, conservative, moderate base. And I can even tell you when it happened. It happened when he said, I will not allow my people to help New York extradite Trump back to New York. Here in Florida. I will not do that. Because a lot of those Nikki Haley, Tim Scott voters were kind of like, I guess we'll put up with right-wing Ron DeSantis if he can save us from Trump being our nominee anymore. But then when he said, hey, I'll actually defend Trump, he lost those people. All right. And so that's why the campaign's been somewhat flummoxed, which is, all right, is that who we try to bring those people back? But the problem is his record is too right-wing. And so he's got to be comfortable in his pitch, which is, I am a better Trump than Trump. And tonight he gets a chance to do that without Trump on the stage.
I think he should listen to his wife and less to his advisors. The other thing that is interesting is to watch tonight is Vivek, because he is really a fish out of water. He does have a strong resume, just not a political resume. And I think that's what people were attracted to with Donald Trump. But he's in a completely different demographic and doesn't move like a politician. It'll be interesting to see tonight how that plays. It's in the same way of this stale format that has been going on since I was a kid of a debate. If this plays still today, because America has changed so much, I'd also like to just ask everybody on the panel, if you were watching today and you were just at home, would you watch the debate, Trump, or both, or neither?
Oh, it's funny. Whenever Tucker came out with his video saying he was going to air, which we all knew was coming, I'm going to air my, my interview with Trump at the exact same time. I was like, oh, well, we have to watch the debate, and I actually would much prefer to watch Tucker and Trump. Is my answer. Now, obviously, we get to watch both here on BlazeTV's analysis, which is great. But I think I would watch Tucker and Trump, and I would wait for clips to surface from the debate.
But Fox won't let anyone play clips.
No. I know. But you know what? Trump is obviously the front runner. I want to hear what he has to say, and I guess I'm just going to hope that I can get it in 2-minute and 59-second snippets.
I would watch the debate tonight. No knock on Tucker, no knock on Trump. We've heard a lot of, he was president of the United States for 4 years. We know exactly where he stands on these issues, and that's important. I'd like to see him, talking to the other candidates and going through those issues in detail. But tonight, I think, is about the other people here. Is there someone who's better? Remember, we have had really tough choices to make at times, and this may wind up being one of them. A lot of people back in the day were like, it's Trump and Hillary. I might not even be crazy about Trump, but I got to go for Trump over Hillary. That's not where we are now. Right now, we have a decision to make between a bunch of people that's sort of like span all of right-wing thought. I mean, you've got some moderates out there, you've got some, real hard right-wingers, you've got really accomplished people, you've got newcomers, you've got everything. So let's look at this field, see who's there, and then hopefully, at the very least, these people are going to push Trump to get better and get more focused, and that may help him, if he wins the nomination, to be victorious in November. I'm more interested in this. I will go back and watch the Trump interview after, because I think that will be interesting as well. But this is, just for new stuff. It's the new thing, and I want to watch it.
I think I would take Sarah's strategy, but just flip it. So I would watch the debate and then wait for clips of Tucker and Trump on Twitter. Because obviously they're going to be clips, because there are always clips.
And it loses something when it's not live. If Trump were live, opposed to this being live, but there is something that happens when a show is live that you just never know. And seeing that this was taped last week, it's like, okay, well, it'll be there tomorrow, and I can watch it next week. There's obviously nothing so pressing that I have to see that they put in a can for a week. And I also think this debate is so important because when one of these candidates breaks out and becomes powerful enough with enough people behind him or her, they will be able then to hopefully go head to head with Donald Trump. So you get the weeding of all of the rest of the field, and then you'll get maybe one or two real matches with a one-on-one with Donald Trump and whoever the people pick.
Can we go to what questions you want asked? Like, if it's Brett Baer and Martha McCallum tonight. It's Fox News. What are they going to ask? That's really important. I think that was the thing that changed with our event in Iowa, where it was different than watching some mainstream media debate. We got really good questions that I think were really interesting to people who actually vote in these elections. I don't know if Fox is going to do that tonight. Sarah, what sort of question would you want asked?
Honestly, the main thing for me is how are you going to stop the weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI against half of the American population? I've heard it from, I've heard general answers from Ron DeSantis, from Vivek. I like that Ron DeSantis says, I'm going to stop the weaponization, but I'd like to hear a little bit stronger stance at this point. I mean, we're on, indictment number 4 for a former president over the first one was falsifying business documents. Then you've got the J6 one. You've got the Georgia one where Trump genuinely thought that they could find actual votes that were there. We all know this. We all heard it happen. And they're still trying to indict him. You've got the FBI running up on pro-life activists over bogus charges that even the local authorities dropped. So I really would like to hear anyone come out strongly and say something like, I'm going to burn it all to the ground. I'm going to defund the FBI. If they don't do X, Y, Z, and I haven't heard a very strong stance from any of these candidates, I would like to know exactly how they are going to prevent the weaponization of the FBI and the DOJ tonight, because I do think that is something that, if we can't get under control, is going to ultimately be the end of the republic.
Well, I think, Sarah, that you are really in the area where I am on this, and I'd like to hear the others' thoughts, but let me just add to yours. I want to hear a candidate answer 2 questions. 1, do you believe that the administrative state is out of control and that the people are not being responded to because of a deep state or administrative state? Yes or no? Yes, no. No, I dismiss. Then the next question, if they say yes, I want to know constitutionally, how are you going to shut this down? Because it's in the DOJ, EPA, IRS, it's in all of it. Yeah. How do you constitutionally reset us back to constitutional standards? I want specifics on the Constitution and how you're going to get that done.
So can I respond to what Glenn said? I think this is where we have to recognize political realities. Like, if I agree with everything you guys just said, but there's one thing that could be done right now, and only one thing that actually could be done right now that Republicans in D.C. could do against the lawfare that is being conducted against the president and his associates. And that is they control the power of the purse constitutionally. They could defund the Department of Justice and say, we'll even have a government shutdown, take our case to the American people. You guys decide, we'll provide you enough money for the basics of government, the troops, retirement pensions, et cetera. Everything else, all other forms of discretionary spending is a no. And we're going to take our case to the American people, and you guys can stand up there and say, no, we want to continue to fund independent counsels to put a former president in prison and make that case. Here's what's strange about that. No one is articulating this. Like no Republican, they want to do an impeachment of Biden, which by the way, I'm all for, but ultimately, let's be honest, other than generating clicks for people like us, and we need them, it won't substantively do anything. What I'm suggesting would. Not only are no Republicans suggesting this, strangely, Donald Trump is not suggesting this. I mean, Kevin McCarthy is speaker because of Donald Trump. I mean, if my boy had the speaker's gavel and was in control of the one vestige of government that controls all appropriations, I'd have to resist the temptation not to be on the phone using every form of leverage I could to get him to stand up for me and remind him, hey, dude, I'm why you're there, you know? And yet no one's clamoring for this. No one's talking about it publicly.
So what do you want? What do you want the question to be? What should be asked? How would you phrase that?
We want people to say things like defund the FBI, but we can't even get the Republicans with the votes to defund the DOJ. These aren't things that a president can do unilaterally. Like the stuff Vivek is talking about, a president can't do that stuff unilaterally.
Disagree.
Right? I mean, and so it requires other aspects of Congress. I mean, if we can't get Kevin McCarthy and Ronna McDaniel, why isn't Ronna McDaniel at the RNC saying, here's what we're going to do. Until Republicans defund DOJ, no funds from the RNC will be released to any Republican running for office in America. That's the kind of stuff we're going to have to do to beat these guys, and we never do it, and we don't even ask for it.
Well, I think that's GOP being lost. It's just lost. When they kept McDaniels in, I think you saw all of this stuff coming.
Delana, what question would you like to see asked tonight?
I would ask what policies a particular candidate would enact to create the types of conditions for American families to flourish. Because right now, the state of our unions is fragile because, American families are under attack from the White House, from the State House, from the schoolhouse, and the courthouse. So I would want to know what the next GOP, what the next Republican president would do, and how they would distinguish their role from the roles of other civic institutions, the family being one of them, churches and other religious institutions, and communities and that type of thing. But what role would they play, and what role would their policies play in setting the types of conditions that allow American families to flourish? And I think one thing that Vivek has in his, one positive that he brings with his candidacy is that he speaks on those broader sort of aspirational levels in ways that other candidates do not. And I think part of it may be he doesn't have the type of political resume to lean on. But I mean, when you consider the types of things, we're at a point now where states are having to define male and female for the purposes of law and policy. I never thought we would get there. So again, I certainly agree with all the, what we've been talking about in terms of the weaponization of our legal system for political purposes. But even if we got all that stuff straight and we continued on this train, we are going to run off a cliff at some point, because the greatest form of generational wealth is our children. And I think the next president has to be able to address that in a very, succinct and straightforward way.
Yeah, I think Vivek is trying to hit that positive note at times. Tim Scott certainly trying to bring that to the table too. We'll see if that's where the Republican voting base is right now. One other thing about tonight is the story is not just about the debate, it's about the network hosting the debate tonight. Late last week, President Trump finally announced his decision regarding the first presidential debate. He would snub Fox News and instead appear in an interview with our friend Tucker Carlson. As you can imagine, this sent Fox News into, DEFCON 1. A Fox staffer turned whistleblower contacted us just moments before this broadcast and gave us exclusive behind-the-scenes footage from an emergency meeting where the Fox News bigwigs deliberated over how to handle President Trump's obvious absence from their debate. We here at Blaze Media have verified the authenticity of this leaked footage and would like to share it with you right now. Watch.
Good news, everybody. We here at Fox have obtained exclusive rights to the first RNC debate.
Well, it's not going to be good news if Trump shows up.
What are you talking about? It's going to be great for our ratings. Remember the whole Tucker thing?
Yeah, I've seen my stock portfolio.
Anyway, you were saying?
All right, look, we obviously want DeSantis, but it'll be like the CNN fiasco if Trump shows up. He'll own the room and everyone will see it.
It's true. We'll be embarrassed, and so will DeSantis. Now, what we need to do is to make sure that nobody can legally broadcast this debate.
Exactly. We must have full control over the coverage.
I don't know. You might be right. You might be wrong. We need the Trump bum for our viewership, and hiding it from other platforms just doesn't seem right. We need to embarrass Trump before he embarrasses us.
Embarrass Trump? What, like Hannity embarrassed us by adding a studio audience?
No. What we'll do is we'll show unflattering photos of Trump to promote the debate. Like this one. Trump eating fast food, huh?
Yeah, he's a man of the people.
That actually makes me really hungry.
I love chicken.
All right, swing and a miss. This one. Look at that. Come on. Ridiculous.
He looks awesome.
I bought that NFT.
Nobody rides a T-Rex like the Donald.
Really? All right. It's him on a fine. Really him riding a T-Rex? All right. Trump, in the 90s, completely misogynistic and being completely sexist.
More like sexy.
He's a playboy. Women want him, and men want to be him.
EIMP.
Serious? All right. I didn't want to have to do this, but I'm going to pull out the big guns. I'm going to show you the most vile photo we have of Donald Trump. Ready? Hold on to your seats.
Sir, that's John Lithgow playing Roger Ailes.
All right, it. Let's just not let anybody else broadcast the debate legally.
All right. Well, we have the star of that particular bit there, Sarah Gonzalez, but we also have Dave Landau, who is a comedian and host of Blaze TV's latest comedy show, Normal World. Is really, really funny. Dave, did any of that come from any real-life inspiration?
All of it. I heard that that's exactly what happened. Well, it actually was that Trump said that they used unflattering photos of him, so that may have been why he didn't show up.
Yeah. Do you believe that, though, Dave? I feel like...
Not at all.
Not at all. Not one little bit.
Not even a little.
It is amazing, though, that we're sitting here, this conservative media and Fox News, they seem like I feel like we're a million miles away from these guys right now. What is happening?
I don't know. It seems very bizarre to not let people watch a debate, especially the first one that I guess it does matter, but kind of doesn't matter. I mean, it does. I shouldn't say it like that. But I guess as a spectator and as a comedian, you kind of look at the first one where you do kind of want to see who will, be... Yeah, I just kind of see where they go, kind of see what person has whatever to say. Like, I have some questions I would ask people.
All right. What are you thinking the moderators should be asking the candidates tonight?
Okay. Like, I would ask, like, if you became president, do you promise to stay awake during memorial events?
Oh, wow. Yeah, because clearly the answer currently is
really
no.
Raising the bar.
Yeah, because so far that's for this cabinet, that's a no. I would ask Doug Burgum, Who are you?
Wow, you're going up against Bergamentum here.
I know, that's because clearly I think he's going to win. Why even show up?
Yeah.
I would also ask, okay, so every president seems to have a theme song. What's going to be yours? Because obviously Springsteen's going to take it away. And if it's a Spice Girls song, I'm not going to vote for you.
Please don't. Yes.
Yeah, right away.
If you go to Spice Girls, I mean, what year is it? Spice Girls would be very difficult to pull off.
It would be sad. So everybody has their meal. We just saw that. Like Trump loves McDonald's and fast food. Biden loves pudding and B12 shots and applesauce.
Anything that goes down easy.
Yes, when Hillary ran, I think she bit the head off live bats like Ozzy Osbourne. So what would your favorite meal be? I would ask them some fun questions like that. I would also ask, what are you going to do about lowering food costs? Lucky Charms are $7 a box, and Daddy needs his sugar.
So where are you getting it for $7 a box? You got to hook us up.
I know, right? It's a pretty good deal. I get it out of a truck, and it's in a bag. It's not really Lucky Charms. I think there's fentanyl in it because I keep going back to the same guy.
It's amazing. I mean, I just feel like it's sort of a circus, and this is without Trump being there. Like, Trump brings the circus wherever he goes, and now we have a circus with Fox News and a bunch of people like Doug Burgum that we don't even know.
Can I tell you something, though? I think, Dave, your question about food is actually really good. Because if you remember, it was Barack Obama that I think said Brussels sprout, no, arugula.
Arugula, yeah.
Arugula. And we all went, arugula? We knew who he was from that answer. Donald Trump eating chicken out of a bucket. We know who he is. I think that's actually probably a pretty good question to ask.
Yeah, right when I heard that, I just thought Steve Martin and My Blue Heaven, like, it's a vegetable. Like, no one knew what he meant.
And that was before the kale revolution. I think he actually was toning it down from kale.
Yeah. Right.
He was going to say kale, and he's like, no, I got to go to the people. This is arugula time.
Yeah, that was before he started naming kids that and spelling it different.
What other questions do you have?
I also have, if elected president, do you have any plans of implementing term limitations? Because Survivor has now been on for 10 years too long. I think that's a fair one.
It's got to stop at some point.
It's too much. The Kardashians, why? Why? And then I have one more, which is, what is your plan for the border wall? And do you think if we made it out of honeycomb, it would be more likable to the masses? Or would it just attract bears?
Which might be a good deterrent.
It really would.
The bees would be good. I mean, it's all natural. It's wonderful. I love that.
I just think it's the best way to do it. If you got bears and bees, there's a good chance people aren't going to show up to the border wall, even if it's delicious.
And you try to climb it, you stick to it.
It's
so
true.
You're in serious trouble in that scenario.
This is why I should run.
Yes.
I mean, you've had a couple
on that
of
stage.
good things here.
Yes.
We found 3 polls with you over 1%, Dave. You're in. Just get there as soon as possible.
This just in, I'm beating Doug Burgum.
All right, Dave. Dave's going to be joining us, by the way, later this evening for our post-debate coverage beginning at 11 p.m. Eastern. Can you stay up that long, America? All of the Blaze TV hosts, including Mr. Landau and myself, will be giving live reactions and picking winners and losers from the debate. Don't forget, it's Blaze Debate, BlazeTV.com. You can go there, use the code DEBATE. It'll save you $25. Let me take a quick temperature of the room here as we get close. What are we, 7 minutes away from this debate right now? Sarah, let me start with you. Let me give you 3 categories. You divide up the 100%, okay? You got 100% here. What you think is going to happen. Donald Trump wins the Republican nomination. Ron DeSantis wins the Republican nomination. Anyone else in the field wins the Republican nomination. How do you split up the 100?
Anyone else in the field is 0%.
0%. So you have no hope for Vivek, no hope for Tim Scott. Nobody makes.
Well, I mean, no, I don't have any hope for any of them.
Well.
I don't enjoy any of them.
Okay.
Other than Don Bertram.
Don Bertram is a very powerful candidate.
I do like Don Bertram. Other than him, I don't think that there's a chance for anyone. I don't think that a Mike Pence who wants to stay in Ukraine forever and ever and ever, or Nikki Haley who wants to do the same, and Asa Hutchinson who enjoys chopping off children's body parts. I just don't see a path forward for them.
Okay.
I think.
So you're splitting the whole 100 between DeSantis and Trump.
I am.
Where do you go there? What's your split?
I don't know. I'm not as smart as Steve. You need to ask.
I'm good. Steve's next.
I would say maybe 70-30 Trump.
70-30.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you get past Trump's polling. I mean, Trump is the obvious front runner right now. I think DeSantis is at a disadvantage because, as Steve pointed out, the resume is most important, but it's not always what most Americans think about. They want to hear you speak. They want to hear what you have to say. And I think Ron DeSantis is at a disadvantage because he's been repeating the same things for years now. Now, has he been acting on it? Yes.
Yeah.
Does he have the track record to prove it?
Great record.
Yes. But he needs to come up with some new talking points. He needs to come up with some charisma in delivering those talking points, just so that Americans, specifically Republicans, conservatives, are hearing something new from him. I think he needs to do that if he wants to gain some momentum.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes before the debate. Steve, can you give me a breakdown between these three groups?
Well, you have to start with Trump as the perceived front runner.
Yeah.
I think it is 50-50 that in 300 and I think it's about 28 days is the GOP convention in Milwaukee. I think it's 50-50 that he'll be in prison or incarcerated or able to give a speech at the convention accepting the nomination. And I would
It's
put
a bit
it 50,
of a deterrent for
I would put it
voters.
50-50 because we just don't know how the lawfare. I mean, look at the schedule. Right now they want to do D.C. in January, have it end the 1st of March, and then have Fulton County literally start like the next day. What a coincidence! Like it's just planned or something. Right, so I think it's 50-50 navigating that.
So how do
I would say 30% DeSantis, and then I would say 20% someone not currently in the field. Because what happens if Trump accepts the nomination and then goes to prison or takes a plea agreement? We are in uncharted waters then. Who's the nominee then? Is it his running mate? Is there an adjunct supplemental convention? I think a lot of people watching us right now have really no idea what the enemy has in store, what they've already done, and what they plan to do in the future. And analyzing this like a traditional campaign cycle, I think they're going to show sadly was a futile exercise.
Do you have a breakdown of what you think here, Delano? We've got about 3 minutes.
Sure. I'd say Trump 60%, DeSantis 35%. Anyone else, about 5%.
About 5%.
Yeah.
Glenn, do you have an opinion on this? You want to chime in?
Yeah, I think there is a good shot that I'd say probably 50-50 as well. Because of Donald Trump's troubles, I think he may go to jail. How that works with the Constitution. I mean, I'm not hearing people talk about the constitutional crisis that will cause, because I think you could actually serve from jail, and I think that would rally people around him. However, I think it's DeSantis or Vivek that I think Vivek might be the candidate that Donald Trump would look at for a vice president.
I think what happens at the end of this is both Biden and Trump get arrested, and the last debate are podiums behind jail bars, and they actually do the debate, and they take them in paddy wagons so they can cast their vote.
I'd watch that.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting. I think, if this was a normal, if the indictment arrest scenario were not part of this, I'd see Trump as probably 75, maybe DeSantis 15, and the field 10 is probably where I'd go. With the arrest, though, I think you at least have to double the chances of something else happening other than Trump.
I agree.
I do think that it would be almost impossible for him, if he gets arrested and is imprisoned, to win a general election. Right. But I do even wonder if you could win the primary in that situation.
Well, we don't look at what his polling numbers did after his indictments. Yes. See, I could make an argument that if he weren't being indicted, his odds would actually be lower.
Yeah.
Because that people have rallied behind him even more.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I don't know if that extends when the prison thing started. God only knows. We're in uncharted territory, and the debate is starting here in just a couple of minutes. You still have time to join us over at BlazeTV for our exclusive subscriber-only chat. Glenn, Sarah, myself, everybody here is going to be chatting with our BlazeTV subscribers throughout the night. And think of it kind of like live tweeting the debate, except it's only for you. It's in a completely private setting and without all the trolls. Well, some of you are trolls, but that's okay. It's going to be a lot of fun. Head over to blazedebate.com right now and join us. Be sure to use the code DEBATE because we want to save you money. Unlike the Biden administration, we're not going to jack costs up right now. We're going to try to cut them for you. And it's $25 off right now if you use the code DEBATE at blazetv.com or blazedebate.com. We are only a few seconds away from this thing starting up. I assume you're going to go over there and watch this on Fox, which is cool. We want you to get the information. We're not like Fox. We want you to actually hear what these candidates say. We'll be analyzing this in the chat rooms with you here as we go forward. And afterward, we have a really long, a lot of stuff to do afterward. We're going to have post-game reaction, basically, with the whole crew here, talking about what you just saw on the debate. I'll also be doing extended coverage over on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/StuDoesAmerica. We'll just keep going and going and going. I'll pull all these guys in over there, too. They don't know that yet, but they're going to participate, and they're going to smile the entire time and act like they actually like it. We will see you over at BlazeTV.com. See you then. Good luck, everybody. It's going to be a heck of a night.